The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Oh, viewer, my goodness, you've grown. Welcome back to Nerd Academy Movie Club, the show where your favorite nerds talk all about movies. I'm your host, Jarod Bachman-Stubbs, and I keep wanting to intro this like this is the first episode of prequel month because this is the first one we're recording. We're doing it out of order. We're recording the Phantom Menace one tomorrow, so I can't act like this is the first episode because, like George Lucas, we can't count. But yeah, we are continuing prequel month for you guys at least. We're here to talk Attack of the Clones, and I made sure, because this is not my favorite Star Wars. This is not my favorite Star Wars. I can admit that. But Devin seemed to have liked it, and we have a guest who does quite like this movie. So first of all, obviously, we have Devin Arnold.
Not a bad movie, in my opinion. Honestly, like, I thought I had a lot of fun, more fun than I thought it would.
That makes me happy to hear. That sincerely makes me happy to hear. We'll get into it. I don't love this movie as much as a lot of other people do, but it makes me happy to see the love that this movie gets these days. And speaking of people who love this movie, somebody who has kind of built their brand around good old Space Jesus's flow. We have BDazzler herself. We got Brooke on the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I couldn't talk Attack of the Clones without the person who goes by Obi-Wan's mullet. It's kind of,
yes.
If I'm gonna have Bombad cast on to talk about Phantom Menace, I feel like it's the same level of well, duh, for a guest spot. So before we jump into the movie and anything else like that, Brooke, where can the lovely people find you and all that you do?
So most of my content is on TikTok, but I'm active on Twitter and Instagram as well. My username is BDazzler with _before and an _ after everywhere. And yeah, I post mostly Star Wars, but Marvel. I had a Batman moment here for a couple weeks, and just fun stuff.
Yes, and they can also get your. Actually, hold on, they can get some of the cool stuff you make. Far, far away factory up in here. Hold on, I got the postcard on the corkboard over here. Forgot to pull it off.
I always forget to plug my shop when I do this, so I'm glad other people do. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I had my headphones on.
Oh, you're good. I was just saying I always forget to plug my shop when I do intros and stuff. But I'm glad other people
go buy
do.
things from her. Go buy things from her.
Farfarawayfactory.com.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I got my Rex sticker on here somewhere. I have the store logo. I friend of the show, but I hate to sound like a kiss ass, but sincerely, I love it. I can't wait. I know in time for Mando season 3, I'm going to be getting the Mando Darksaber shirt. It's just great. It's a lovely art style. I can't co-sign hard enough.
I appreciate it.
Of course. Before we jump into the show, of course, you guys know the drill. We have a word from our lovely sponsors at sundaysbloodymary.com. Go to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Get the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy. Y'all know spicy Caesar mix is my jam. They also have a mild mix and a vegan mix for those of you who are not spice lords or prefer animal product free. I have a subscription box that gets you 2 jars a month at a reduced rate. And they also have garnishes like their rim salt and pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus. They also have merch like their shot glasses, hoodies, and their brand new cute ass Sunday's tomato heart hat, which I can't recommend enough because I just love that little logo that Annie made. So go to sundaysbloodymary.com, use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout. You get 10% off your order, and you help your favorite nerds while you do it. Devin, have you any numbers for me?
Naturally. So, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, came out May 16th, 2002. Has a runtime of 2 hours. Stars Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Christopher Lee, and Samuel L. Jackson. Directed by George Lucas. The movie has a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 54% on Metacritic. The budget of the film was $115 million, and the box office return is $654 million.
That is crazy to hear. It's crazy to hear only 100 million for this movie.
I know, I was also surprised.
Like, I know, just for fun, we're getting ahead of ourselves by a year. Let's just, The Force Awakens budget. 306 million.
Wow.
Sounds more
for comparison. So, you know,
I mean, they were using like PS2 graphics, so it's fine.
I mean,
they were using PowerPoint too, I think, for their transitions between scenes.
I love a Star Wars wipe. Makes my heart happy. Devin.
Yeah.
Give me a log line.
Star Wars, Attack of the Clones, The Art of Seduction.
This isn't so much a log line, so much as if we could go back in time, a review that should have been put on the DVD box. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. This is George Lucas's best attempt at Shakespeare, Devin Armel, the Nerd Academy podcast. Go listen to the audio commentary. Brooke, we've put you on the spot and thrown you to the fire. Have you a log line?
Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. This is what you would do if you had a movie with characters that all shared 2 brain cells.
That's valid. That's true. I think it's very true. You know, Scotty from Bombadcast talks a lot about how Phantom Menace feels like the most pure George Lucasness of Star Wars. That Phantom Menace is just George being George. And I think I agree with Scotty about Phantom Menace with that in the best way. I think Attack of the Clones is what happens when you really just don't tell George no. And nobody is able to try to rein him in. This is my least favorite Star Wars, but because it's Star Wars, I love it more than any other movie on the planet. You know, like it just has that default. I don't care what else is on. If I see Attack of the Clones is on TV, I'm going to watch it. Why? Because it's Star Wars. I am a loyal return customer. And I've gotten to the point where I do sincerely, the things that I like about this movie, I think I love. And it's all the same things everybody else loves. But Devin, I want to pick your brain because again, just like last year, this is the first time you're seeing these movies in years.
Oh, like 15 years for sure.
So how are you feeling coming out of this one? Knowing that this is the one that has all of the, I don't like sand and romance and the weird
Yeah.
CGI. And
Definitely liked Phantom Menace more. There's just I don't know, there's a couple things like plot wise that I really didn't think made any sense. Like I really think Dooku probably should have killed Padme and probably like Obi-Wan and Anakin whenever maybe not Anakin if like he knew Palpatine had plans for him and whatnot. But like I really feel like Dooku probably shouldn't have just like tied them to poles and presented an opportunity to escape. And I also don't know how you could like confide in someone about killing a small village of people. And somehow that is like Cupid's arrow and just like reels Padme in after like telling him not to look at her a certain way and like like he just like he hears that and is like, okay, I gotta stare harder. And like
that really is how the scene goes, and it is so disconcerting.
It's
the fact that he does a little head tilt. Like all that's missing is like the Debbie Ryan like hairline ear. Like that's all that's missing from that scene. He just flips his Padawan braid behind his back.
Yeah, and he's just like touching her exposed skin like on her back like without consent. And like I don't know. It later spawns the lines that she truly, deeply loves him. And, hey, the script needed it, but...
So, my first question to you, Devin, how much do you buy Anakin and Padme's romance in this movie?
I want it, 60% off. Like if I'm gonna purchase it, this is like thrift store love.
This is a clearance couple for you.
Yeah, I think you could have taken out so much of the pedo staring and
oh jeez,
like a handful of lines, and the two went through so much together. I would have bought at the beginning of or at the very end of this movie, at the beginning of the next one, that they had a solid romance going. I just I don't know. It's really not that big of a deal for me as romance in a Star Wars movie goes. And I did like a lot about the movie. I would have loved to have learned more about Sifo Dyas. You luckily filled me in a lot of that, but I don't always have Jarod. So as an audience member, I felt I was missing some. And yeah, the Django stuff was cool.
Tem. All hail Tem.
The water planet was cool. The overuse of CGI instead of building a set is it's a choice.
It's bold. It's really bold. I think this movie, more than any other prequel, deserves that level of man, it may not have worked, but you sure did swing as hard as you could.
I feel like they went into it how Avatar in 2009 went into it. They thought they recognized they had game-changing CGI that was going to age wonderfully. And, well, it didn't. They just saved all that for the next movie, luckily.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do think it's interesting that, each of the prequels really do build on each other. With regards to special effects and production stuff like that. Phantom Menace has a considerable amount of physical sets that they built. They built Mos Espa. They built, a lot of the reactor area on Naboo where the Duel of the Fates happens, where most of the stuff in Clones is just you're acting against blue screen and people in gimp suits. And Sith is kind of the marriage of that, where you have a lot of practical sets, really complex practical sets mixed with that huge scope with the CGI. And again, does all of it work? Not necessarily. Did it blaze a trail undoubtedly. And I think that is there's praise there that I think is left on the court that the prequels and Clones in particular doesn't get because it was willing to take those chances. Brooke, thoughts on Attack of the Clones?
Okay, so I unironically love this movie. I didn't like it the first time I watched it. The first time I watched the prequels, I watched everything out of order. So I watched the originals, and then I watched The Last Jedi was the first movie theater experience I had. So I watched The Last Jedi, and then I watched the prequels.
That's wild.
I watched the prequels, and then I watched Episode 9 when it came out. So all out of order.
That's like the machete cut. On fucking steroids. Holy shit.
Ninja cut.
Yeah.
Ninja cut. But okay. So I didn't like it the first time I watched it. I was just kind of like confused the whole time. I was like, I don't understand what is going on with anything. And same with the Phantom Menace. I still don't understand the plot of that, but that's a conversation for another day. But I guess it just became like I watched it, and I think I kind of came across as like a joke one time when I was talking about Obi-Wan and his glorious Jedi mullet. And I was like, you know what? I want to go back and watch this again. And I guess it just became like a comfort movie. So I just throw it on when I want to watch a Star Wars movie. Because like I know it so well that it's not one of those ones that you need to like really be paying attention to. In contrast to one of my other favorite Star Wars movies, which is The Last Jedi, that requires like brain power to watch. Like it's almost exhausting to watch that movie. And I weigh rewatchability very heavily in my rankings of the movies. But I just think it's just fun. It's a really fun movie. The whole like beginning sequence with the chase is like, it's so funny because it is Obi-Wan and Anakin and their brain cell that they share. Like Obi-Wan jumps out of the window and lands on this like tiny little droid, and then later on we see Anakin jump out of the speeder, and Obi-Wan's like, I hate it when he does that. I'm like, you just did that. What do you think that he's gonna do if he sees you doing that? So it's just so fun. I am an Anakin Padme defender, I guess, if you will. Their relationship is, a tragedy, so like there are a lot of aspects that I don't like. But as far as I will defend Anakin's dialogue in this movie, and I won't necessarily defend the dialogue. I will defend Hayden's performance as Anakin, because if
100%,
if you read interviews, he studied James Earl Jones's like cadence and how he spoke as Vader, and he tried to like emulate that so it would mesh the characters more together. So if there are things that he says that kind of like comes off weird, I think that's what he was trying to go for. Now, if it worked every time, I don't know, but I think Hayden's like non-verbal acting is very, very good. So yes. Even if you're, we were just talking about all the weird looks or like uncomfy looks he gives Padme, it's like that's still really good because that's how Anakin would act. This 19-year-old who hasn't seen a woman in his life other than his mom and Padme, trying to talk to her, he would be very awkward. He would be both nervous, but also like he still has that like Anakin cockiness of like, I'm a great Jedi, like this gives me, street cred or whatever. So that's like kind of a mix of all of those things. I also think the scene, like the fireplace scene where Anakin is basically like, you have bewitched me body and soul, like Mr. Darcy-esque, but just very badly. I think it's more to do with like the editing of the movie because it's like there's no transition. It's like they're just there. They're just there and the scene starts. They don't like walk into the fireplace and sit down. They're just sitting and it's really weird. I think if there had been some sort of transition to see how they got there, it would have made a lot more sense and been less awkward. But and the scene of their kiss before they go out on the chariot is like one of my favorite shots in all of Star Wars, because it's just their silhouette, and like Across the Stars is this movie birthed Across the Stars for us, and we have to give them that because it's such a beautiful song. And I think it captures the like tragedy of their relationship very well. And I guess the last thing I will say about Anakin and Padme, as far as especially in this movie, and there have been many commentary and discussions had about Padme's choice to fall in love with Anakin, despite, his confession of killing all of those Tusken Raiders, because I don't think that she was in love with him at that point. I think in that moment she chose compassion, because she stood there while he was angry and crying and yelling and, saying what he did. And it wasn't until he showed any kind of remorse that she decided to comfort him. And I think I'm just going on a whole tangent here. The Padme books really round her character out, and you can really just see like she just wants, what's best for everyone, and she is just a very compassionate person, and that we see that a lot in those books. The Clone Wars rounds their relationship out too, as well as a lot of the books, because there's scenes of them in Thrawn Alliances, the newest Queen's book. Queen's Hope has Anakin and Padme scenes, and then Brotherhood, the new book that just released last week, also has Anakin and Padme scenes. So, not saying that like you should read all of those things to like fully get it or whatever, because not everyone is into the external media, but I think it does help.
I think you bring up a lot of great points. First of all, I want to say I pride myself on knowing about all kinds of weird behind the scenes shit. I never knew about Hayden studying James Earl Jones's cadence. Yeah. That's cool as shit. Yeah, that is really cool. Like, I'm very happy that you imparted that information.
I had like me. So much more respect for his performance after I found that out.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to say one thing, like as we're getting into the movies that have Hayden in them, I don't want this to come across as me like bashing Lucas to save face for Hayden, but the original trilogy proves to me, and Devin, we talked last year about like moving in the Star Wars month next year from last year's perspective of like George Lucas is the ultimate idea guy. Mm-hmm. Lucas is so good at concepts. And again, like going back to, we talked about this so much with the original trilogy, with the monomyth, with the hero's journey, build those basic building blocks of storytelling that he has mastered. And what he has not mastered is the like nitty gritty. Mm-hmm. Like George Lucas can give you a plot synopsis of Star Wars that sounds incredible. But I think if he tried to like orate the entire thing, you check out in 30 seconds. And Lucas did not have, Marquand or Kirshner or Kurtz at his disposal. It was him. Mm-hmm. And I made the joke earlier, and no one to tell him no. Not the studio, not the people around him. Like, George just did George for these three movies, for better or worse. And if there is one thing that George Lucas is infamous for, it's that he's not an actor's director. It is the long-running joke. Again, we talked about this last year, what's George's main direction? Faster and more intense. What the fuck does that mean? what the fuck does that mean? Faster and more intense. Like, you just want me to like scream this as quickly as I can. And I think Hayden, I like his performance, and I really like what he's going for with Anakin in both of these movies. And I think it's unfortunate that I think he needed more direction to really do more with Anakin.
Oh, yeah.
Because of every character in the prequels, Anakin is the most complex, complicated, subtle character. He has more moving parts than any other character put together. You know, Obi-Wan is the quintessential Jedi, and I think Padme is the closest second to Anakin as someone who's really complicated. Again, as Brooke alluded to, there's all this extra canon material that just is solely about exploring what makes Anakin and Padme tick. And, you know, I think a lot of that goes to show that all Hayden had to work with was George's direction. And I think George did him a disservice, not intentionally, you know, and I don't even think that it's because George didn't try hard enough. I think it's because George Lucas needs extra hands to really make this work. Like, I think if you had an Irvin Kershner or someone like an Irvin Kershner who could have taken the reins for Attack of the Clones the way he did for Empire Strikes Back, you end up with a movie that does not get maligned the way it does. And I think it's interesting that the two Star Wars movies that I have the most to critique, being this and The Rise of Skywalker, both have the bones of the best Star Wars movie potentially. You know, and Devin, this won't mean as much for you, but Brooke, you know, I'm almost done with Brotherhood. Right? I'm nearing the end of it right now. And something occurred to me watching the movie yesterday when Devin and I were doing our audio commentary. $5 tier for patrons. Attack of the Clones, out of every Star Wars movie, feels the most like a Star Wars novel.
It does.
Like, there's just something so pulpy about Attack of the Clones. You know, you have Obi-Wan playing detective, you have the swashbuckling romance. You know, this one feels the most like a prequel era novel. And I don't know what exactly it is that feels like I should be hearing everything that's happening in Jonathan Davies' voice. Right? But there's an element to it. And I think that part of it is that this movie, more than any other, to truly understand what the hell is going on, does require that extra canon material. Like, you know, shit like the whole Cypher Diaz thing. And, you know, Devin, multiple times when we were recording the audio commentary, goes, oh, so Cypher Diaz is Dooku. No. He's Sidious. No. He's an actual character. Oh, do we ever meet him? No. He existed and died off screen. And just that, okay, well, that seems a little wild. Yeah. Well, welcome to this movie, buddy. Buckle the fuck up, because shit's about to get weirder, you know. And like Devin, one of my favorites, and I muted myself because I was laughing really hard at it for a moment at the very end of the movie when Dooku arrives on Coruscant, and you literally went, he just went like right back to the main place. Like there was this understated like, what the fuck is going on in your voice? It's like, why are you 2 feet away from the people you're hiding from? Because Attack of the Clones, it's such a Star Warsy thing, and it's why I love this world for all of its lumps. Is that there's just weird dumb shit that will happen in all of these movies, that you end up with entire volumes of comics, entire books and video games and whatever to just explain one really weird plot detail. Like the amount of legwork it took in both Legends and canon to make the concept of Sifo Dyas not feel like a fever dream and not feel like you missed a scene.
I love that we are all Obi-Wan in that whole section, just being like, what the fuck is going on? I don't understand. I'm gonna roll with it, but I have questions.
And it's so incredibly funny. And I meant to have it ready in like the stream deck right here to play the clip. But it goes back to that cosmonaut variety hour bit, you know, and it's like how incoherent this movie is, but I love it for it. Where like, let's break down Palpatine's plan to assassinate Padme.
Oh my gosh,
so
yes.
So Palpatine needs Padme dead. So he tells Count Dooku, I need you to kill Padme. And Count Dooku doesn't want to kill Padme. So he sends Jango Fett to go kill Padme. But Jango Fett doesn't want to kill Padme. So he sends Zam Wessel to go kill Padme. But Zam Wessel doesn't want to kill Padme. So she sends a droid. And if you want to be an asshole, the droid sends Bugs to go kill Padme. You know, it sends a man who sends a shapeshifter, who sends a droid, who sends Bugs. And like, but that, and again, I will link his video. I don't agree with everything Marcus says in that, but it's funny as shit. And I can't say that he's entirely wrong either. But like that encapsulates this movie. You know, like it is just buck fucking wild. And like you were talking about, like the scene where Obi-Wan just dolphin dives out of a window. Like, I don't think we talk about that moment enough. Like,
yeah.
It is sincerely one of the funniest things in Star Wars. Is that like Anakin leaps across the room, draws his lightsaber so close to Padme.
So close to her.
So close. Takes out these bugs, and Obi-Wan looks out the window, and he takes a beat to think. And that is why it is so funny to me. Like, it's not like this immediate, like the scene from I think it's Superbad that has that like hilarious behind the scenes video of like Michael Cera's character, like the stunt double jumping through the window off screen. Like, like there's not that instantaneous whoo, right out the window. He stops, makes eye contact with the droid. He and the droid both think for a moment, and then he leaps through the glass. That is hilarious. Because it's so funny. It's sincerely funny. I wish the sound design in this movie's kick ass. I wish like the sound of the glass was louder or something that just really like put like a stinger on him. Just okay, whoo, and then Anakin going, well, shit, I gotta go find him.
That whole sequence is just amazing, and then he's like free falling, and Anakin like catches him, and he's like, "You're a little late, like just made it." And he's like, "Oh, sorry, master. Like I couldn't find a speeder I liked with the right like." And he said a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah,
about
the open cockpit. And again, there's just so many scenes where everyone's just like,
"It is just so it's just so them." Like especially after like I think they must have taken inspiration from that kind of banter in the movies to the Clone Wars, because it translates very well with the banter that they have in the Clone Wars, which is great. And the whole sequence, and then they go into the club and Obi-Wan's like, I'm gonna go get a drink. And it's like, what?
I pointed out to Devin, because I didn't know Devin watched Clone Wars when you were a kid, but like this sets up a pattern of alcoholism for Obi-Wan Kenobi that also doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah.
every moment Obi-Wan can drink, he's drinking.
Have you read Dark Disciple?
I've not yet in its entirety. No.
So I don't want to give it away, but in Dark Disciple, he is kind of like, he's not on the mission, but he's like checking in on the people that are on the mission. And he's always like, meet me at this like cantina. And so there's just multiple scenes of him just sitting and waiting and drinking in the cantina. And it's great.
And I mean, it checks out. Like, you got to be Anakin Skywalker's babysitter for 13 years. You know, I too would turn to Spotchka when I need it. You know, like I too would just be like, oh, Jesus. You know, I can just see him like showing back up at the temple and just looking at Plo Koon and just like Plo being like, you know, we can all tell that is not water in that cup, right? He's like, you want to hear the shit he pulled? You'll need a sip, you know? I love it. I love their dynamic, and it's on the mind because, like I said, I'm reading it right now and I'm almost done with it. But Star Wars Brotherhood, oh my God, it's so good. But it's moments like Brotherhood expands upon it really well. But there's like Obi-Wan so clearly cares so much about Anakin and so much about his well-being. And you can tell that Anakin sincerely looks up to Obi-Wan.
Ever since I learned that when Anakin was like still a really young kid, like the first year or two that he was at the temple, sometimes Obi-Wan would wake up and Anakin would be sleeping at like the foot of his bed because he was afraid that he was going to like lose him too. Just my heart.
It's such a beautiful relationship, and they love each other so much. But then you also get moments where Anakin is raging against him, and Obi-Wan can't help but just be a smart ass.
I love it. I love it.
We relayed your message back to Coruscant, and then we decided we would come try to rescue you, Master.
Like he looks up at good job.
It's the looking up at the shackles that really sells that moment.
Yeah.
But it is such a great beat, and I love the relationship so much, and it is the beginning of it sets the groundwork for Revenge of the Sith to be tragic. And I wish, and thanks to the Clone Wars, thanks to how many novels and comics, we get a lot of Obi-Wan and Anakin together and seeing that brotherhood and that friendship. I also will say, I think without that extra canon material, it's harder to conceptualize that friendship. Because they spend more of this movie in a kid-friendly way telling the other one to shut the fuck up than they have, you know, scenes like that final conversation they have in Sith, where they say goodbye before Obi-Wan goes to Utapau. There's some gold here. And I have to say, one of my favorite characters of all time, and I think it's crazy, truly, how little screen time Count Dooku has in this trilogy. Like, I don't think there is another character as important as Dooku to the story of the Skywalker saga who gets this little screen time. Like, I think it's wild that we don't even see him until the end of Act 2.
I was gonna say we don't see him until Geonosis, and then in Revenge of the Sith we only see him in the beginning.
There's like 5 minutes of screen time in Sith, and he's only peppered across the last like half hour, 40 minutes of this movie. But Christopher Lee has just such a commanding presence. But on top of that, going back to shit that as a kid made no sense to me, and again trying to talk Devin through what the hell is happening. Whenever Dooku just gives the game away, talking to Obi-Wan, where is it? The Senate is controlled by a Sith Lord. And again, Devin, I wish we posted the video of the audio commentary sometimes, because I wish you could have seen the face you were making. Like there was visible confusion. Like it was the meme. It was the meme of Obi-Wan on Camino. What's like, why would you tell him?
Apparently it was part of the reshoots, which means that they like really thought about adding it and thought it was important enough to film to put it in the movie. But we were going to see it in the next movie. If you didn't figure out already. Yeah, if you didn't already figure out that like Palpatine's like, grooming a 10-year-old to be like a mass murderer and he's going to gain control of everything. I just like the only sense I could make of that was like it was Dooku's proposition to Obi-Wan to become his apprentice to overthrow Sidious after everything went down. But like apparently that's sort of like not what was going on. I feel like why? My best analysis would be they're trying to display these movies are basically the fall of the Jedi, and I think that was supposed to kind of show how untouchable I think the Jedi thought that they were, when Dooku is really just being like, there's a Sith Lord controlling everything, and the Jedi are like, there's no way that would get past us. There's no way, to the point where they like gaslight themselves into believing that there's not, like, the Sith Lord isn't controlling everything, even though he is. So that's my best guess, but the way that they showed that, like with that particular scene, was interesting. Because I don't think Dooku I think he knew the whole time that Obi-Wan was never gonna go with him. So like Dooku's trying to like almost like insult the Jedi by like telling them the plan and knowing that like their naivety and ignorance and arrogance is gonna like make it not even matter. I don't know. I
think another element that makes it weirdly entertaining is that while Dooku is explaining to Obi-Wan what's going on, he also just randomly lies in the middle of it too.
Which part?
That Darth Sidious betrayed Newt Gunray, and that's why Newt Gunray came to Dooku in the first place. Like, Gunray knows about Sidious!
Right.
He doesn't know that it's Palpatine, but he knows that there's a Dark Lord of the Sith who is like the actual head, like secret head of state of the Separatists. And like, he's still on good terms with Sidious as far as Gunray is concerned in Revenge of the Sith. So like, that also is just so out of left field. And I don't know, like, on one hand, because in Legends, and this is in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, and it was a fun detail that I like a lot. Dooku wanted so badly for it to be Obi-Wan that they try to turn, because he thought Anakin was a liability, he'd get in the way, blah, blah, blah. And that was Dooku trying to get Obi-Wan to bite.
Mm-hmm.
In Legends, where he's like, no, like, please, I feel like you're my grandkid because I trained Qui-Gon. Like, please throw me a bone. Help me help you.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't work. And he's like, oh, well, I tried. But Christopher Lee is so good at everything that even though Dooku is another element of this movie that kind of doesn't make sense, he sells it so well. Like there's that little bit of like stunted, like I'm talking to nothing type scenes, like when Obi-Wan's talking to Dexter Jetster, like the running through the factory scene, all of that, where it's like I'm acting off of nothing. I'm just ducking when someone yells duck. Christopher Lee's interaction with a Yoda that is not in the room. Like, he sells that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all he had was like a little stuffed dummy.
Yeah.
To have like an idea as to what his sightline is. To do the whole, it is obvious that this contest cannot be decided by a power in the force, but by a skill with a lightsaber. Horrible line. He sells it.
Yeah.
I can't think of another actor who I would have bought that. Like that is the most Dragon Ball Z bullshit. Star Wars is, again, when you don't hear it in Christopher Lee's voice, it is clear that our contest cannot be decided by our powers in the Force, but with our skills with a lightsaber. Like, it almost sounds like Napoleon Dynamite with I got skills, nunchucks. Like, we're verging on that, but Christopher Lee is just so effortlessly fucking badass. And there's a cool Christopher Lee story what we'll talk about with Revenge of the Sith that I look forward to talking about, because it's, again, he didn't get to contribute much to that movie, but there's one very important character beat he solidified for Dooku that we'll talk about then. Another thing I just want to bring up, I think this movie has the best deleted scenes. There are, like, if I had my druthers, there would be an extended cut of this movie on Disney Plus where they restore, add, and finish the trial where Anakin and Padme go before the Separatist Council and they declare them guilty and then sentence them to execution in Petronaki Arena. There's another one, which I only found out when I was a kid, whenever the Blu-ray edition came out. And I was telling Devin about this on the audio commentary, that during the battle in the arena, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Plo Koon, and Aayla Secura leave the arena, hijack a Geonosian ship, and try to take out one of the droid control ships.
Wow.
And it's like an unfinished scene. We would have gotten live action dialogue for Plo Koon in that scene. But like, they take a ship, they go up, and like there's unfinished footage. I'm sure the scenes are out there somewhere of them like mowing down battle droids, and they get to the bridge of the droid control ship, and then they get apprehended. And that's why when you watch the scene in the arena, whenever most of the Jedi have been killed and they're getting closed in on, and Windu and Dooku have their brief exchange, the circle opens up and you see Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Aayla Secura all like rejoin them. Like they're walking into the circle and filing in. And it's because they had been apprehended in orbit and then brought back down into the arena.
Didn't know
it's
that.
a really cool scene. And I understand why they cut it, because I think it would be really clunky with everything going on, because, you're following Mace v. Django, you're following the slapstick humor with 3PO and him, wrong body, wrong head, wrong torso humor. You're getting like the little moments between Anakin and Padme, I call it aggressive negotiation. I understand why it would be so hard to then be like, and now a mini space battle, and now they're in the ship. Like it, I understand that it probably would have been incoherent, but I don't care because it just would have been more Jedi doing cool shit. There's also
scenes where they go to Padme's house and like meet her parents and sister.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
I wish they had kept at least some of that in. Yeah,
because you see her parents during the funeral procession in Sith.
Yeah.
That if you don't watch the deleted scenes, you have zero context for who those people are. And same thing with Sith. We'll talk about in the next episode, obviously. But, you know, the fact that they cut the birth of the rebellion plot line, I think is
shame.
Huge mistake, in my opinion. And I don't know whose decision or mandate that was. But, yeah, I you know, it's you know, crazy opinion. This stuff on Geonosis is the best part of the movie. I know there's a unique take that the scene where there's more lightsabers than I can count is the cool part. But going with more of the deleted content, the fight between Anakin and Dooku also has a huge segment cut from it where like Dooku ends up with 2 lightsabers. Like if you search the internet hard enough, there is an image where Dooku is kind of doing like a General Grievous pose, holding the blue lightsaber from fighting Anakin. And I don't know if it's when he's fighting Anakin. He may pick it up when he's fighting Yoda, but still, like there's a moment where like Dooku's dual wielding.
Interesting.
But all that exists is just this one image of him holding 2 lightsabers during that fight. There's so much shit that ends up on the cutting room floor, and it boggles my mind. I have been talking for a little bit. Does anybody else have anything else they want to bring up before we get to closing thoughts and letter grades?
I mean, I am personally a Tamora Morrison fan first.
Yes,
and a human being,
Django
and
and
a
the
human
Clones,
being
absolutely.
second. So that was honestly, I think, one of the best casting decisions that they've ever made in Star Wars. Maybe I'm biased, but
I recognize your unparalleled thirst for that man.
yeah,
But you're also correct.
I see. I can compartmentalize.
Yes. I love Tem. At post Book of Boba Fett, post The Mandalorian, seeing him as Django was cool twofold. Because one, I was like, I had this whole moment where I'm like, he really does make Django and Boba feel like distinctly different people, which I really liked. And then watching Attack of the Clones the other day was the first time that I went, wow, he's really hot. I don't know. Tem as Boba doesn't do it for me, but Tem as Django, I was like, damn. But
just look up pictures of him from the movie Barbed Wire with Pamela Anderson. It's a terrible movie. It's god awful. But he looks damn good.
Okay, we're going on a journey together. Oh, this is what those pictures of him are from.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, he looks good, but that's interesting. I never knew because I've seen like these random out of context images of him.
Yes.
In just like generic army man type outfit, but never had any context for what it was from. That's neat. No, I absolutely agree. I think that he is such a good fit. And I think that it is he is one of the most understated actors in Star Wars. He is at once just that like cold confidence of Jango Fett, you know, and there's nothing that one of my favorite little details about this movie is the fact that he tries to fly away right before Mace kills him. And that little he doesn't realize his jetpack is fucked, which would be the same issue Boba runs into. Star Wars is like poetry; it rhymes. Favorite quote. And it's just such a little detail where people are like, well, what? He's such a good bounty hunter, but he just kind of stood there. No, he tried to fly away and with out of the jetpack, and then it happens. But like he disappears into the clone trooper role, and granted, it's just voice acting at that point. There's no physical performance there, but the way that the very cold. Don't move, Jedi, and a simple man making his way through the guy. Like that feels so different from how he does the clone troopers. Like there's a really seamless transition where like I have a hard time remembering that it's him to a certain extent. Like he just really disappears into the clones, and I think it's one of the reasons why like I have never shrugged at D. Bradley Baker playing the clone troopers, because there's a part of me that's like, oh yeah, but like the clones in Django, like they don't have anything to do with each other. Like I forget that they're all Django fat.
Yeah. And as much as D. Bradley Baker like brought the clones to life in a sense and like gave us a better understanding of them and made us, love them and be attached to them. Like that's still all partially due to, Tem's original performance.
Tamora absolutely laid the groundwork for that, for that specific thing. And I think it's from like just how soft-spoken the clone commanders are on Geonosis. That there isn't a lot of loud bombast. They aren't super intense. Because there is a subdued intensity to Django. With the clones, it's all forward positions are advancing. Like there's no yelling, there's no hollering, there's no whatever. And I think you're absolutely right. I think without the way that Tem does that little subtle little bit there, that sets it apart. And then whenever they had him redub the original trilogy with Boba's lines, he makes Boba Fett have this sinister nature to him. Where like Boba feels scary in a way where like Django is very cold, where Boba feels kind of sinister. Super understated and does not get enough credit. And not just because I love so many of those clone characters, Rex especially. I really want to see Tem get to play one of the animated clones in live action, just because I want to watch him flex his muscles a little bit.
Especially after Book of Boba Fett, like his performance was so good, and there you can really tell a difference. Like I always forget, like, oh yeah, like him and Django are literally the same person. But I would love to see how he handles like Commander Cody. There's like some rumors going around that he might be in the show. If he shows up as a live action old man Rex with a white beard, I will be passing away. But I want to see that so bad, and just see like what he takes and what he does with it.
Absolutely, his performance as Boba Fett is so nuanced. Like there's so much beneath the surface with him, and I do truly think Temuera Morrison is one of the best gifts that Star Wars has ever given us. Truly, I don't think I'm exaggerating at all when I say that. And I think the same can be said to a slightly lesser extent about Sam Jackson as Mace Windu. I think Mace Windu in this movie is such a watershed moment for stupid nerd shit. Like Mace, there is sincerely a domino effect that happens because of that purple lightsaber. Like the in-universe, like it's because he's kind of dark side, kind of light side, even though like that's more of like a fanon thing that has never really been the case, but we just kind of make it up because Sam Jackson's cool as shit. So like but you also get the moment where, like, once you add purple, yellow and orange are right behind that in video games and shit. People like, oh, we can just use whatever color we want. Cool. Fuck it. You know, every color of the rainbow is a lightsaber now. And we're better off for it. And then you also just have the really wholesome, like, real world story behind it, where Sam Jackson was like, I just want to be able to see me and then show my kids where I'm at during the fight.
That's so cute.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know if you saw this. This is circling the internet recently. We did recently have confirmed the legend that the prop department etched. I have it on my coaster.
Yes. I feel like he did an interview recently. Not maybe recently, but in the like last couple of years, and he like mentioned that.
Yeah, well, he would always say, "Oh, I had bad motherfucker on the lightsaber," and people were always curious about like where it was. And he recently posted a picture of the prop, and like if you visualize like Mace's lightsaber, how like the gold accents where the ignition switch is, how there's like the half a circle up top, and then like the 3 tiny squares. It's the half circle on top that they just etched BMF into.
He's just awesome.
It's so cool. It's so cool. That's one thing. I'm not one of the people who like super boo-hoo Yoda using a lightsaber. That's actually, Devin, I want to ask you, how do you feel about Yoda using a lightsaber? Because I think all of us really are of that age where like the concept of Yoda having a lightsaber doesn't feel sacrilegious to us because he's had a lightsaber ever since we were kids.
Did you ask me how I feel about Yoda having a lightsaber?
Yeah, and like getting into a lightsaber duel.
I love it. Like, I think it's cool that Yoda's just like not just some old wise dinosaur. Like, I like that he actually has like a vast knowledge of the Force, and like we're the only one we only see him like catch lightning with like the Force instead of like deflecting it off of a lightsaber. And then like whenever like Dooku draws the saber, he's just like, God damn it, and he like cracks the back, chucks the cane, and just like gets his little Mike and Ike sized lightsaber out and just starts going to work. Like
little Mike and Ike sized lightsaber. Oh, that's funny. I will say I don't love the fight with Dooku. I think it's shot and choreographed kind of weird. Like, it does just kind of feel like they told Christopher Lee, just swing your sword and then we'll put him in around you. But that beat where like Dooku does his like fucking Vegeta monologue at Yoda and then draws his saber, does like the Form 2 salute. The music's from that. That whole cue of Yoda throwing his cloak back and like, all right, you brought this on yourself, man. Like, you know, you ran your mouth, you fucked around, and now you've reached find out you shall section. Again, I don't love the fight, but that moment where Yoda, it's so cool. But Devin, when the old heads, you know, the fans before our time, that was like a big point of contention. Like, people hated Yoda having a lightsaber.
And what else do you want him to do?
Just be a wizard.
Well, that's not fucking good enough. That's not what a Jedi is. It's not just a wizard. Like, you have to be able to, like, I don't know, do whatever you have to do and whatever Jedi are supposed to do to like maintain the peace. And like, I don't know. I'm glad that like shit doesn't get hairy and Yoda's just like, help me, you must. And like someone just picks him up, backpacks him, and like runs out of there. Like, I'm glad that Yoda like joins the fight. I feel like I feel like that solidifies Yoda more as like a leader instead of just someone in a position of like, in a position to lead. I guess I don't know.
I think too. We have to remember that the classic Star Wars is for kids kind of thing. And
Yes.
What do kids want to see? Lightsaber go burr. Like Yoda with a lightsaber is like the coolest thing. The Attack of the Clones came out when I was 7, and I didn't see it in the theater or anything, but I feel like that moment would have been so cool to kids because Yoda, honestly, a little creepy and a little terrifying in the original trilogy. So I feel like they were like, all right, we got to do something to make him more appealing to our new generation, our new audience.
I mean, hey, I'd even say he's a little hard to look at in Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah,
Devin and I watched it on Disney Plus, so it's the 3D re-release version where it's like the first time we have a digital Yoda in all of Phantom Menace. But Devin, the puppet they use in Phantom Menace has Jerry Seinfeld's hairline, and it's really hard to not just stare at him.
That's tough, man. Probably a good.
Oh my god! Like he
decision to revise later on.
Yeah. Oh, the CGI looks so much better. But I've always kind of toyed with the idea of what that scene would have been like if it were Mace.
Mm-hmm. That would have been cool.
To maybe like flip flop it that like Yoda is this, little dervish going ape shit in the Petronaki arena. In this like giant, like this enclosed space, and you just have him hopping around, cutting droids apart and shit. And then it's Mace Windu that you get the bad motherfucker throws the robe back. That's the moment you see the purple lightsaber, and then he's the one who shows down with Count Dooku, which I think also would kind of add to the tension between Mace and Anakin in some way, where Anakin's a very proud man, and being saved by Yoda is very Gandalf-y. Like, you shouldn't hang your head because this paragon of good saved your life. But when it's the guy who's just basically your boss and you've never gotten along ever since you were 9, there's like that moment where he saves them is going to sting a little bit more. Like I said, I don't know how committed I am, how much I would want to see that other version of Attack of the Clones where Mace and Yoda flip, but I don't know, just food for thought. I'm also saying that just because I always wanted to see Dooku and Mace Windu throw down. But yeah, I think with that, are we ready to move into final thoughts and a letter grade?
I think so.
All right. Well, Brooke, as our guest, I give the floor to you, my friend.
Well, I will say final thoughts. We got a lot Attack of the Clones fans. We were fed this year. Because we got a lot of Attack of the Clones like callbacks in Book of Boba Fett, which I've heard from numerous people say after watching the Book of Boba Fett, they went back and watched Attack of the Clones and like enjoyed it a lot more. But then we've got Queen's Hope and Brotherhood and like the Kenobi series, obviously that's more Revenge of the Sith, I guess. But I think it's cool that people are finally coming around to them, at least more loudly. It's been awesome to see like Ewan and Hayden on this press tour, and they're like, we didn't feel the love when the movies came out, but now the kids that we made them for like have the voice now to tell us how much they love those movies. So that makes me happy. As far as rating, so my heart says it's an A+, 5 out of 5.
That's valid.
But I also recognize, like, I'm not arguing that it's like the best Star Wars movie. or even a good movie. I just think it's fun, and like, don't take Star Wars too seriously, and you'll have a good time. So realistically, I would give it like C-, like a 3, 2.5.
All right. I respect that. Dev, final thoughts on a letter grade. My guy.
Like probably my least favorite prequel, but I really didn't have that many issues with the plot as much as I had issues with like as you said, like Lucas is good with the concepts. Like I like the plot's concept. I don't necessarily like the steps that we took to get certain places, but it's still a lot of fun. I really loved having not seen that movie in so long, like actually realizing we were getting good banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and like I love seeing that relationship like fleshed out. I don't know. The only things I didn't like about the movie were just like some of the execution, like towards the end, especially like a lot of the things that went down on Geonosis. It was just like, this is an interesting decision. But we also were given dual wielding Anakin and like Yoda fighting. And, you know, it was like, there's a lot of give and take with this movie for me, but I don't think it was a bad movie per se. So my rating is going to be, I think it's going to be a C-. That feels, I don't think it's a D worthy movie.
I just want to say, anyone who's new around these parts, I want you to go back and I want you to watch the episode we did about Return of the Jedi last year. And I want you to, and again, these are one of those moments, it's the $5 is worth that audio commentary. Because I don't know what's changed in you, Devin, but I feel like the same man who went kind of ape shit watching Return of the Jedi has grown into somebody who's like, Attack of the Clones is fun. Like Brooke, for your context, so much of the watching of the original trilogy with Devin kept coming back to, man, I'm like, because he, knowing Vader's his father, Leia's his sister, blah blah blah. It's like I'm really curious as to how they explain this. I'm really curious as to how they justify some of the decisions that have been made leading up to this point. And I warned Devin multiple times. I'm like, they just go, yeah, we lied to you. What about it? And Devin's freak out during Obi-Wan and Luke's conversation on Dagobah remains one of my favorite moments of doing this show. And the tangent of what would happen if Devin were Luke Skywalker and the rampage you were talking about. So funny. Devin hating Return of the Jedi is one of the funniest things that has ever happened to in my life. And I look forward to you revisiting that movie one day to see if you love it as much as I do. But that's neither here nor there. No, this is not my favorite Star Wars movie, but some of my favorite shit is in this movie. Like I said before, I think it has its flaws. I think it is very clunky. Parts of it are slightly incoherent. But I do think there's parts of this that are absolutely undervalued. And I think it is I'm not gonna do the whole it's a misunderstood masterpiece. I'm not gonna do that. I will say it is a movie that gets maybe too much hate. Not as much undeserved hate as the Fandom Menace deserves all the hate. The Phantom Menace, I think, gets shit on way more than it deserves. This movie slightly less so with that. So I think I'm also gonna be very consistent here and give it a C-. But with me, that also comes with the caveat of it's Star Wars, so A+. Just like Brooke was saying, I'm gonna pretend that it isn't all space wizards all the time with me for the sake of reviewing this. But yeah, Brooke, one last time for the lovely people at home, where can they find you and all that you do?
You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, _ BDazzler farfarawayfactory.com. Those are mostly all the places. I have not Twitch streamed in a hot minute, but after the excitement of Celebration, I'm hoping to get back into it. So,
woo woo. Excited for that. I'm so bad at watching shit on Twitch. I want to so bad. I am so bad at just operating Twitch as a viewer.
It is interesting it's not my favorite like platform. I was thinking about like, should I switch and stream on YouTube, but I don't know. If
I could just talk shop real quick on air, StreamYard, invest in StreamYard. It's like $12 a month or something like that for like their mid-tier plan. And it basically does all the work for you.
Cool.
Good to know. I can't stress enough, and I don't think I've let the audience in on this secret recently. I'm bad at producing. If I didn't have StreamYard, there would probably not be a show. It is the most streamlined. I think one of their ads, the guy's like, it's a podcast in a box. There's truth to that. It is sincerely really easy to use. I can't recommend it enough. Sponsor us. Devin, buddy, where can the lovely people find you?
Guys can follow me on Twitter at DevinArmel31 and Instagram at DevinJArmel. And you can find me right here on this show. And our audio commentaries, $5 tier.
Well done, my apprentice. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1!
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our Brooke. Apologies for what you're about to hear. Thank you to our $10 alumnus, Nick Johnson, and to Paco, or as he has made his name this month. Use code TNAP to get 5% off your order on SaveInfowars.com. That's code TNAP to get 5% off your order on SaveInfowars.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, folks, Star Wars Celebration is upon us. The look on Brooke's face of this was fun into what in the fuck did I get talked into? There's context for all of that, I promise. Guys, Star Wars Celebration is fast approaching. I will not be present. I will, however, be streaming live from Nerd Academy HQ, covering all of the stuff that Star Wars will be filling us in on from Anaheim. So the way that's going to work, I'm going to be streaming during the day, during the convention itself. After things wrap up, I'm going to take a little bit of a breaky and then come back, and we're going to do a live after show to recap everything. That's also going to be the Friday of Celebration, where we do our Obi-Wan Kenobi review for the first 2 episodes. So stay tuned for all of that. The Versus series, which is also on the $5 tier. Early access. We're doing 2 episodes of the Versus series this month. One, Spencer and I used our Versus format to see if we can figure out who will win the rematch between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. So tune in for that. It'll be out the week Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out. But again, early access to the $5 tier. And then this week, well, today's the 17th. So Thursday, the 19th, it'll be out long before anybody who isn't a patron hears this. We're doing our main episode of the Versus series for this month, which will be Kylo Ren versus Cal Kestis. So very excited for that one. Getting back on track with the Versus series. Scheduling conflicts made that a little bit of a hellified nightmare to get done each month. But we're back and very excited to get moving on it again. Be sure to tune back in for Revenge of the Sith. Go check out all of Brooke's stuffs. Go buy a t-shirt. And yeah, thank you all so very much for watching and listening. And no, that's the other show. And cut.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!